Welcome back to the next video on fund development. I'm David Schreier. In the last video, we learned about corporate giving and ways in which board members can help foster a multifaceted, mutually beneficial relationship. In today's video, we're going to look at how using the right goals, benchmarks, and dashboard indicators can guide your ministry's fund development program. You can download the resources for this video by clicking on the link that was emailed to you by Felician Services. Marcy struggles to manage her fund development activities effectively. At the start of each year, she crosses her fingers and hopes for the best. This year, she's working with David the consultant, who advised her to do a better job setting goals and tracking results so that she can make the most meaningful changes along the way before it's too late. Marcy's fund development program has a lot of moving parts. There's the annual fund, special events, major gifts, corporate and foundation grants, and plan gifts. And each of these areas have their own moving parts. We will use the analogy of taking a cross-country road trip to help us understand some new concepts. Let's say Marcy is planning to drive from Chicago to LA. She would want to use goals, benchmarks, and dashboard indicators to help guide her. What's a goal? Well, it's something that describes what you want to accomplish or achieve. A fund development goal might be to grow the annual fund by raising more money from more donors. A benchmark is a way of looking at different factors that affect our ability to achieve our goal. For Marcy, some benchmarks would be how many hotel nights she'll plan to stay, how much money she has for food, and how long her trip will take. For a fund development goal, the benchmarks might be how large is our mailing list, what is our normal response rate, and how large are our average gifts. A dashboard indicator report is just like the dashboard on your car. The gauges and meters let you know in real time the car's status, the oil pressure, battery power, air temperature, and so on. For a fund development goal, the dashboard report would track each of the benchmarks just described. Let's look at how Marcy should create her fund development goals for this year. First, she needs to base them on last year's actual results and see where she can improve on them. Sometimes an improvement is an increase of something, like getting more money. Sometimes it's a decrease, like losing fewer donors annually. Whatever her goals, they should be consistent with her ministry's strategic plan, they should be realistic, and she should discuss them with other key people in the organization, members of the board or her administrative leadership, so that there's consensus. When Marcy creates her fund development goals, she goes a step further. She also anticipates potential barriers. Maybe she's lost key staff, or maybe many of her appeals have been flat this year. So then she thinks about alternative ways forward, like changing the timing of her mailing or increasing the size of a mailing list through a list purchase.
My name is Jenna Sheets. I'm the Director of Advancement here at Our Lady of the Sacred Heart High School in Moon Township, Pennsylvania.
And I'm Kim Corrado. I am the Advancement Operations Manager here at Our Lady of the Sacred Heart High School.
Okay, so obviously our overall campaign goal or goal by initiative is board approved, but that number, of course, is broken down, as we had talked about before in speaking to segmentation. When we're looking at what's our goal going to be for segment 1 for this year, it's working as a team to determine who's in that segment, what has been their previous gift history, and in the best case scenario, what can we anticipate or project our dollar amount to be. I think something that's really fun and cool about our team is that we have 4 of us as part of our advancement team, and we've all kind of taken ownership over one particular solicitation, like for the annual fund. Kim took a lead on our initial solicitation earlier in this year when we were doing segmentation a little bit differently. We have an alumni relations manager who has taken ownership over a monthly giving club that we're really pushing to young alumni. So by taking our particular positions and skills, we're able to use those to, I think, make the best solicitation possible, because we kind of step up when it feels like something maybe we're just really excited about. So that's what we do for annual fund. I can tell you for a major gifts initiative, I tend to include donors almost in the goal setting process. In Pennsylvania, we have a tax credit program where businesses can contribute scholarship dollars to organizations like OLSH and get a tax credit. So when we're planning for the start of the fiscal year, there are a couple of donors that I have the relationship with that I can say our goal for this year is $130,000. They know that 30,000 of that is them, so they feel more inclined and feel like, okay, I know exactly how I'm contributing to that goal. So again, it's all about having your constituents feel like they have ownership over making these campaigns successful, and for team members too.
Again, that just comes right back to our segmentation and tracking what we are mailing to people and how people are responding. Again, the number of donors and how many gifts we get is one of the major way of tracking.
And making sure that you're analyzing the data that you get back from a solicitation. Rate of return has been huge for us to really take a look at this year. I don't want to say that we haven't done it in the past, but we've made it more of a focus so that we understand our constituencies a lot better.
And then one last question that I thought of too. So because the target for some of these videos is that some of the ministries will share them with their boards or their advancement committees and so on. So as people who are on the staff of the ministry, how do you find the advancement committee and the board members to be useful in terms of helping you to get your work done? What can they do to be helpful for the ministry itself, if that makes sense?
Yep. I think the number one thing is for committee members and board members to just offer connections. It doesn't even have to be, I'm going to go with you to a donor meeting. It's just saying, hey, I know this person who supports Catholic education and who happens to have the resources that you need. When you all get into a group and you start to name drop and you realize, I do know a lot of people who could support the school for an advancement team, that's huge, because that's hours of research that is then broken down. Of course, it's great when board members can ask for a gift or bring in their own funds, but it's really the connections that they can offer that's the most important thing.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's the relationship. It's just making the introduction, bringing them in for a tour. Just saying this is what we do and this is why we do it. They don't have to ask for money right away, and we can bring in the professionals to actually do that part, but just making the introduction and building the relationship is really the most helpful thing for an advancement department. We use dashboards here to track our overall goal, and then we use it also to track our goal. We break our overall goal down into times. So where should we be at our first quarter, where should we be at our second quarter, and so forth. And so we're always looking throughout the year on where we stand, on where we think our goal is for that time period.
We also use indicators not only based on time throughout the fiscal year, but by segment and solicitation. And segment can be by dollar amount, or it can be by affiliation of the constituent. And Solicitation obviously goes without saying. We have a number of different appeals, as all our institutions do for things like annual fund. So we're able to track in that way as well. Something that really helps us by tracking in that way is we can make adjustments later in our fiscal year. If one particular segment isn't doing as well, we can add a different initiative to kind of boost giving in whatever segment happens to be down for whatever reason.
We track all of our segments and all of our mailing pieces. So, for example, last year we sent a postcard to our alumni and it didn't do well at all. So of course this year we're not going to do another postcard. We're gonna try and reach them a different way. We also tried to reach our alumni last year with a letter signed by other alumni, and again, it didn't get a very good response rate either. So those are two things that we're not going to do again this year. So
we're timing it differently.
We do use a software to track our donations. It's a system called Avila. It does not have very fancy dashboards, if dashboards at all. So we do a lot of things manually through Excel. Once we break down our larger goal for the year into smaller pieces, and that including segmentations, then we can run reports periodically throughout the year to measure where we are. And that's basically how we manage our dashboards. Data for sure, and I think it's really helpful is when whatever your goal is, let's say it's $150,000, that's a huge number, and it's overwhelming to think of it that way. So I think if you break that goal down into little bite-sized pieces, then it's easier to manage. Think of your first solicitation. Your goal is to get $30,000, and then you work at just getting $30,000, and then once you get past that or meet that, then you start thinking about other ways of getting people engaged. And segmentation is definitely one of the ways to do that. Breaking your data down, your constituents down into groups. So these are my higher donors. You're going to talk to them differently than you're going to talk to your lower donors. So when you just break things down to bite-sized pieces, then it's not so overwhelming.
That's great advice.
And I think a lot of people have seen the chart of, you want X number of gifts over 1,000, which we haven't exactly done, but now that I'm thinking about it in our segmentation process, we have X number of people on this particular segmentation that is our $1,000 plus donors, hopefully. So in that way, when you look at it like, okay, I really only need 20 people to give me $1,000, it makes it much easier to manage.
At the end of the day, goals, benchmarks, and dashboard indicators can help you skillfully guide your fund development program so that you stay on the right course. Video 7, Making Your Case. Every ministry needs to instill confidence in its donors and find ways to motivate, engage, and involve them. This video will explore how to make your ministry's case for philanthropy and convey the impact it makes in the community.